Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to The Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we're getting towards the end of John Carpenter's prime on my trip through his filmography. And this is a new watch for me, but not a new watch for my guest, Paige. One of my very close friends. And we actually just finished watching the film, so this is real fresh.
It's real fresh.
Real fresh.
The trauma's fresh.
On Prince of Darkness, which came out in between two of Carpenter's bigger cult classics, Big Trouble in Little China and They Live. And I had never heard about this film until I started doing my
You hadn't?
No.
Oh.
It really flew under the radar. But we're going to be getting to Prince of Darkness, but for those who have not tuned into the show before, we have three segments. We have coming attractions, our main attraction, and some recommendations to leave you with. Now, coming attractions for Friday, March 31st, there's a lot of shit coming out this Friday.
Yeah, your list was like 20 movies long.
There's legitimately like 15 releases in all shapes or forms. We got D&D. We got sad New York dramas. We got records, vinyl, producer biopics. We got all kinds of things from an Adam Sandler movie to new stuff on streaming, and even a Quentin Depedeau film, the guy who made Rubber. He's the one who's coming out with a movie about basically Power Rangers, but a horror anthology of them just telling stories with each other, because why the hell not?
At this point, why not? Whatever.
Paige, what are you most interested in checking out?
Okay, wait, this feels like a quiz. Oh, The Unheard. Coming to you on Shudder. Yeah. I mean, not me, because I would have to steal your subscription to watch it, but,
It's on my Amazon.
Yeah. Okay, wait, I remember this. You told me. It's about a woman who is getting an experimental procedure to restore her hearing, and then for some reason she's alone in the middle of the woods, and then a wild serial killer appears.
Yeah, this movie was pretty wild. Going into this weekend, I got lucky and caught up on a lot of these movies coming out this weekend, and I generally get most Shudder films loaded into a screening room that I have, and this was a ride. It was very unexpected.
Would you recommend?
I think it's worth checking out.
Okay.
The only reservation I have is like a whole 2 hours, and I don't feel like it needed to be 2 hours, but it's freaky. It's unnerving.
Freaky Frights.
There you go.
You heard it here first.
And I'm also picking a film that is also pretty freaky, Enys Men. And this is about a young woman who's out on an island and doing like this wildlife preservation project with like these wildflowers. And all of a sudden, she starts being haunted by entities, ghosts, whatever the hell they are.
Ooh.
And this is shot in like old style camera with like the graininess and everything on a smaller aspect ratio. Real A24 stuff. Except not from A24.
They do be doing that though. They're messing with the aspect ratios at A24.
Basically, it's either A24, Neon, or IFC throwing out these crazy horror movies. Yeah. And this one definitely is unnerving and definitely worth a watch. And also, a nice little shout out to Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, because that movie is so much more fun than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because I thought it'd just be a dumb movie.
We should do that again. Can you be, like, I want to resurrect Hans Throbbington III, my D&D character.
Yes, I have dabbled in DMing, and we had a lot of fun doing D&D.
Yeah, I loved it.
Paige's character once pleasured a satyr.
No, I tried to, and he rejected me.
Yes. His charisma was too high. Also tried to pleasure a minotaur. That also did not work.
Yeah, he was a himbo.
But then my wife handed it mushrooms that got high, and then everybody pushed it off the top of a mountain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was fun.
You know, how do you win your first ever boss battle in somebody's campaign? Get that mother effer high. Yeah. Chuck them off a mountain. So
don't try to seduce them. It won't work, is what I learned.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, D&D is a lot of fun, but there's also some creepy horror coming your way. And Adam Sandler, which
Ugh.
Should you watch Murder Mystery 2? I don't know, but you know what you should watch is his acceptance speech at the Mark Twain Award that he got earlier this week, and all the other comedians and people who did bits leading up to it, because they've been popping up on TikTok all week and they're hilarious.
Oh, this isn't what you showed us before.
No, it's a new one.
Thing. Okay.
This one's a little bit more serious than some of his other speeches. He does dabble in his, "Hello, my name is Adam Sandler." And then Idina Menzel does Opera Man from his SNL character and sings a whole entire song.
Oh, damn.
They went all out for the Mark Twain Award.
Okay.
Pretty great. So, there you go.
Neat.
Early recommendations for you. But it's time to talk about our feature film, which is indeed Prince of Darkness, which it's Assault on Precinct 13, except what if it wasn't a bunch of gangs trying to invade a building, and it's an old church, and instead it's a bunch of, demon-possessed people led by Alice Cooper.
Yeah. That's oversimplifying a little bit, I think. I feel like you're missing, the anti-God part.
They're all possessed by the devil.
No, they're possessed by the devil's father, the anti-God. Yeah. Sorry.
Just trying to pull up IMDb.
Oh, okay.
So, this is released in 1987. Same year as They Live. I don't know how this film did. Well, from what it looked like, it had, a nothing budget. It was only a couple $1 million budget, and I think it made, $15 million. So,
good ROI.
Guess it made some money.
Yeah.
This is starring Donald Pleasance, who returns to working with John Carpenter for the first time since Halloween. And as you watch it, you see a lot of people reoccurring from a lot of his other films, including specifically Victor Wong and Dennis Dunn, who had previously just done Big Trouble in Little China with him. And you might even see a couple other familiar faces along the way. But, Paige, what are your general thoughts on Prince of Darkness?
Okay, so hot take, but so Prince of Darkness is the second film in his Apocalypse trilogy. So it's The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and then In the Mouth of Madness. And out of those three, The Thing is actually my least favorite. So I like In the Mouth of Madness the best, and then Prince of Darkness, and then The Thing. But I like them all. I really but I find this one the most disturbing out of all three of them, and I think it's because it's the most realistic. I think the nothing budget works to its advantage in this case. The kind of dream/vision they're seeing, it looks like it was filmed on a home video camera from
on this camera.
Yeah, well, I mean from the 80s or whatever, but it looks so real, and that is one of the scenes that just has stuck with me from the last time I saw it. It just scares the fuck out of me because it looks so real. I don't know, but yeah, that's why I like it, because it, despite obviously the fantastical shit, it's the most realistic seeming to me. If I had to pick,
it's interesting because this is a definite change in pace for Carpenter, because his past couple films that I've covered the last couple weeks were considerably bigger budgets. Starman was an actual big studio film. Big Trouble in Little China was this crazy big Kurt Russell starring a fantasy adventure. And then you get this. And stripped it all back. Went back to his horror roots of The Fog and Halloween. And this definitely feels more on the production value of The Fog and Halloween, where it's just they weren't going for big and broad in terms of its scope. It is similar to Assault on Precinct 13, where it's just you're confined to this place, and this time around it's really creepy possessed people that are just standing outside uncomfortably still, staring at you. And then
covered in bugs,
all kinds of bugs. There's maggots, there's worms, whatever beetle. Jess knew what the name of it was.
She did know. I was impressed.
She's a weeble wobble or whatever.
A weevil. A weevil wobbles, but they don't fall down.
Yeah, they look like dung beetles. And It was disgusting.
Yeah.
Some of the shots in this film, when it relates to the bugs, were really unnerving and creepy.
Mm-hmm.
He used a good use of, like, the background for, like, something's creeping behind you and coming up behind you, and, like, I wouldn't say it's deep focus because a lot of those shots weren't actually in focus. But you, like, there's something behind you.
Yeah.
It uses a lot of the unnervingness of somebody just standing there outside staring at you intensely.
Yeah.
And it's not complicated. It's not something that you need a ton of money to portray. It's just literally a person standing there, but it was so effective. And this 100% feels like a Carpenter film. You could feel, like, the wandering, voyeuristic camera, the just steadiness of the camera, because I feel like that's one of the most unnerving things about his films. It's like, this isn't shaking all over the place. It isn't trying to be like, oh my god. It's just like the fact that they're long takes, they're held shots, and you're just like forced with your eyes open to stare at whatever the hell's going on screen.
You don't have to. You can cover your eyes.
From the filmmaking perspective, when you have those long takes, it is that kind of feel of, like, I can't, like, close my eyes. It's like,
it's painful. It's, like, forcing you.
And there's definitely some really interesting imagery, even up to the final shot, which I made a comment that they gave away in the trailer. Because I actually did watch the trailer when 2 days ago, and I'm like, wow, this looks creepy. And it turned out it was very creepy.
Yeah.
Like, this is legitimately scary.
I agree.
I do feel like, how much did I connect with a ton of the characters? Not really.
They're pretty flat, generally.
There's more characters that represent ideas than, like, human beings that we connect to on a deep level.
Like archetypes, almost? I wouldn't even go that far. They're not that deep. They're not even that deep.
I feel like he literally doesn't have a name. Donald Pleasance is the priest. And he represents a very specific aspect of, like, he has believed in his faith for all of this time in a very Carpenter kind of way, deconstructing religion and realizing it's like, hey, they might have been lying to you this whole entire time because they didn't trust humanity with certain things, and it's just like feeling betrayed by that. And then most of the characters in this film are a bunch of, like, physicist students and stuff like that.
So obviously very science-minded, literal-minded.
Which they have that dichotomy between, like, the religion and the science aspects of it. So, like, Carpenter is trying to say something.
He's trying to say something.
Well, the thing is, it's like, well, I was making more of the point, like, this is a horror film with actual ideas and themes behind it, where it's like, something like Halloween has a very simple kind of idea behind it. It's just like,
it's not that deep. It's scary, but it's not that deep.
But obviously, with, like, his next film, They Live, it's just like a giant billboard of, like, Reaganomics.
Yeah, exactly.
Consumerism and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's certain actors in here that, like, obviously Donald Pleasance is a very talented actor, and he brings some presence here. One of the things about a lot of John Carpenter films, like, not everybody feels like the most charismatic presence in the movie.
Yeah.
There's a couple actors, like, especially Dune and Wong, who were in Big Trouble in Little China too. It's like, you could tell they bring some charisma to it, but, like, some of the actors in this are like, this might have been, like, their only movie they ever made.
Yeah, they're just vibing. I like that because in this case, because I think it adds some more realism to the movie. It's not very cinematic, and that's why I think it scares me so much, because it's like, unlike The Thing, where it's like, okay, there's a giant fucking monster on fire in the Arctic. It's like, this feels like this could happen. Like, I think a lot of us have seen, like, maybe, like, a mentally ill, unhoused person staring at us in the train station, and it's like, you know, it's scary. Like, it's much more realistic.
And I think it's interesting because, like, looking into this, a lot of how people are in infected and possessed is through exchange of bodily fluids.
Ugh.
Just like, spray!
Well, I think it's technically Satan's bodily, the anti-gods. He donates the fluids. It's
somebody's fluids.
We don't need to know. We don't need to think about it.
Like, I saw that it was supposed to be, like, potentially a parabel for, like, AIDS. And because this is, like, the height of the AIDS epidemic. And makes a lot of sense with, like, what it's trying to, like, how it's perceiving that transmission of things. And, like, you know, I think it's a common trope now. Because, you know, you have films like It Follows, which is very obviously, because, like, it follows you after you have sex with somebody. So,
yeah,
like,
not subtle metaphor there.
No.
Scary, but not subtle.
This one might be a little bit subtle in its idea. Definitely not in its execution. It's like...
It's just very graphic, like...
Yep. Like, disgusting green ooze everywhere.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can't talk about a Carpenter film without talking about the score. Because, like, this is, like, so John Carpenter. Which, it was a little disappointing with some of his bigger films that, like, they didn't have him do the score for. Like, he didn't do it for Starman and stuff like that. But, like, he did for Big Trouble in Little China, and he did for this too.
The vibes are immaculate.
Yep, it's very much
score.
like 80s synth, creepy, few notes.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Love it.
Doesn't need to be complicated. Still creepy.
It's effective, yeah.
And he can still do it. Because I watched that Firestarter remake. The movie sucked. But did I sit through the credits just to listen to his score? Sure did. Okay. I had more fun listening to this credits than watch the whole entire movie, which that's really sad.
I know, that is sad. I wish you hadn't said that, but fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Wasn't great, which is interesting because John Carpenter wanted to do Firestarter in the 80s. He wanted to adapt it, but like another director got the rights to it, and that's how you got the Drew Barrymore movie when she was a little girl. But I think this one, especially for, like, this was one of the ones I was excited for because this was a first-time watch. It's creepy. It does what it needs to do to scare you. It has really great imagery that's just going to sit there. Just there's one particular sequence with, like a body collapsing in because it just turns into bugs, and it's just like...
Well, no, I think the implication is the bugs are eating his corpse, like, really, really fast, so that's why he collapses.
And then slowly his body parts just start falling off and just, like, lump.
It's very gross.
I'm just like, yep, you got me. That was creepy. I didn't like that.
And I feel like it's so easy to imagine that happening in real life. It's so easy to put yourself in their place because, you know... Do you see people being eaten alive by bugs? I sure hope you don't, but it's very realistic. Oh, God. You should stop working at college then. They never clean the dorm rooms. But no. But yeah, like...
Dead bugs.
It's very straightforward, like, practical effects. You know, the bugs don't look like demonic bugs or anything. They just look like regular
actual bugs.
It's very just, like... straightforward, I guess would be the word.
So many of them, and I think like your what you pointed out in terms of like it feels real because it's very practical. Like there's something creepy about looking at somebody who's just like, and just having like random bugs crawling across their face because you're like you're not okay with that.
Yeah, you're not all there.
No, I don't like it. It was very effective, and you know it has its escalation. There are some tired horror scare tropes. Like there's definitely a lot of dream jump scares, and then it's like, oh, it's just a dream.
Yeah. And
then a dream and a dream.
Dream within, yeah.
Yep, that's always a fun one. There's a lot of dreaming going on here.
Well, it's actually, Shane, it's not a dream. It's actually a tachyon transmission from the future.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, well,
we spoiled the movies on here.
I was going to say, like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, log off if you don't want spoilers.
Go watch it first. Then come
back
and listen to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, and, like, that was at least it adds that layer to it, where, like, narratively, it's more interesting than, like, oh, I was just having a bad dream.
Yeah.
Execution-wise, jump scares worked. But, you know, it's...
Jump scares always work on me, though. I feel like I can't comment on that. I jump at, like, fucking anything, so...
Even the cheapest ones, like that damn Nun trailer. I remember when that came out. And they're coming out with another one. Should have stopped.
They should have. But
stop
they make
it,
money.
James Wan.
They make money, so...
Oh, yeah, Warner Brothers needs money.
Yeah,
never mind.
Clearly.
What am I saying? Warner Brothers is going to keep making them. They need money.
I know.
Which... I'm starting to get a little sad as I'm getting through all of John Carpenter's films and realizing, like, he's done. Like, I don't think he's ever going to direct another movie. And
he's like 80, isn't he?
He's been okay with it. Probably, honestly.
Yeah.
Probably around there. Because, like, he hasn't directed a film since 2010. And I think he was just like, you know what? I don't have this anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, he's made a lot.
For him.
Yeah, he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone at this point.
He could be Clint Eastwood, who keeps putting himself in movies so he could have sex with two 20-year-old women in a scene.
His dick does not work anymore. I'm sorry. You will never convince me of that.
He's Clint Eastwood.
This is not relevant at all. Anyway.
No, it is not.
But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so I also liked how, what did I like? Yeah, so they did add a little bit... My understanding of physics is super rudimentary and, like, mostly from Star Trek: The Next Generation. But I do like how they incorporated, to my understanding is some real-life physics in terms of matter and antimatter. Because kind of the philosophy is like, well, if antimatter is real, then there's the anti-God is also real. Like, God controls the matter in our universe, so the anti-God controls the antimatter. Which makes sense. I don't know. I
feel like there's enough logic behind it to be believable for a movie.
Exactly. It's not total just like gobbledygook.
There was enough effort put in to put some reason behind it that, like, okay, I can suspend my disbelief for this. That makes sense in the context of this movie.
It's totally well said.
And, you know, movies should do that.
Yeah.
More often.
It doesn't have to be factually accurate. Like,
no.
It just has to sound plausible. And it does.
It's a horror movie, so, like, unless you also believe in that we could be possessed by green goo, like,
I hope not.
There's some level of a suspension of disbelief in it anyway.
That's true.
Which, actually, this was the first one in a while that John Carpenter actually wrote. That he's actually directed. And he did it by himself. So, like, he'd even have Deborah Hill writing it with him. I think she might have... When did she pass away? But, like, this was one of his few films that, like, he just wrote by himself and directed. And I think it has a lot of great pulpy genre-ness to it, and I appreciate it about that.
Yeah, definitely.
But do you have any other thoughts on Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really like it. It's the scariest to me because it's realistic and, like, I also... Like, how should I put this? Yeah, it just seems believable, and it's so just, like... It's a very slow build, so I feel like it's like, okay, what's going on? What's going on? Maybe this is just some kind of weird science thing, and all of a sudden it's like bugs. Someone's spitting fluid on you. Like, God, you know, the anti-God's coming through a mirror. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's one of the most believable horror films that I've seen, and that freaks me out. Not literally, but like...
I feel like this movie made me wish that John Carpenter did some more supernatural horror. Because, well, and to be fair, like, I haven't seen some of his films from, like, the 90s into the early 2000s, so, like, I'm still working my way through this journey, but, like, he's known for Halloween, which is a slasher film, which... Obviously, there's something supernatural about Michael Myers, but, like, it doesn't matter.
I don't think in the first movie there is. I think they took it a little too far.
Well, like, I think when it really comes down to it, you just have to realize he's pure evil, and there's no stopping him. And that's the extent of what you need to understand about it, and it just leaves it, which, honestly, was appreciated. The more you pull the layers back, I don't need all that crap. it into it.
It takes a lot of skill to successfully do something like that, and not a lot of screenwriters have that. I feel like no offense, sorry, but.
And then The Thing is obviously much more like a science fiction creature feature.
Yeah,
like this and like In the Mouth of Madness, there's something just like John Carpenter showed that like he could have range in the different kinds of horror that he could work with.
Totally.
And wish that he did more of this, but I'll be rewatching In the Mouth of Madness in a couple weeks because that'll be coming up. I haven't seen his Village of the Damned or Vampires yet, and obviously I think both of them are some form of supernatural horror. Like,
no, vampires are real, Shane. Didn't you get the memo? No, I'm just kidding.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Actually, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm Italian.
Well, because you've garlic in your blood.
I just like have it on hand all the time. It's like, bring it.
It's like, in you. It's like your blood is garlic.
They bite into me and then they start like.
Exactly.
I'm just like, yeah, you like that garlic blood?
Not me. My Hungarian ancestors are like, bite me, daddy. Like, I'm very susceptible to vampires, I feel like.
There you go.
Yeah, so we can't be friends anymore after that, I guess. Sorry.
Well.
Good talk.
It was fun while it lasted.
I know.
Now we got some recommendations for you and shaking things up a little bit. What would you like to recommend to everybody?
Okay, you know what? Before I share my recommendation, I have to get this off my chest. I already told you. I started watching The Mandalorian finally. And I had to stop because bad things started happening to Baby Yoda and it made me cry. So I would recommend The Mandalorian if you don't have a heart. But if, you actually care about Baby Yoda, like me, you're only going to get through like 4 episodes.
Maybe if you cared more about Grogu, you'd get his name right.
I know his name. I just don't. He's just Baby Yoda.
I cry whenever I go on TikTok and people ruin the surprises in the episodes of The Mandalorian. It just came out today. Stop being an asshole.
Well, dude, TikTok's not going to be around much longer anyway, so you won't have to worry about it. Probably. Maybe.
They'll ruin it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or Instagram. Reddit, YouTube.
They'll spoil
anywhere.
It somewhere. Yeah. Okay, but...
You know who you are.
True. Tag things with spoiler warnings. Jeez, at least we do that. Okay, but I just had to get it off my chest. But my real recommendation is, I think it just came out on Netflix a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's called Cunk on Earth. It's like British comedy, and it's like a faux, History Channel documentary. Yeah. It's really funny, and the host just like pretends, she says like the fucking stupidest shit, but with a completely straight face, and they interview real experts on history. And they're just, like, trying not to pee their pants the entire time. It's, like, hilarious.
The best ones are the ones that kind of, like, play... Like, some of them try to just smooth it over and try to be nice.
Yeah.
The best ones are when they either push back on her or play along with her.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic.
It's so good. I love the American guy where she's like, oh, well... How come Americans murder people with guns? And he's like, well, murder is illegal in the United States, but, like, we don't have the right to kill anyone we want with a gun. But, like, the way...
is it? That's not what it feels like.
I didn't mean for that to be so topical. I'm sorry. I wasn't even thinking. But
it's still really funny, though.
It's just ridiculous. They're not, like, making light of gun violence. It's more just, like, she comes off as, like, the stupidest person on Earth. Who thinks she's the smartest person on Earth.
Which this character is 100% built off of the character that she portrays in those, like, 2020 is Dead Netflix specials, if you haven't watched them, where it's like, they interview a bunch of, like, fake experts.
I've never seen that.
The best one is Hugh Grant plays an extremely misogynist, bigoted older historian who has the worst takes about everything. Hilarious. But like this I forget what the actual actress's name is, but like who plays Cunk, she's hilarious in it. And like it has that same vibe.
Yeah.
And it's definitely hilarious. There's only 5 episodes, or 30 minutes apiece. It's shorter than the new John Wick movie. And considerably shorter than the new Avatar movie. So, like, you got time to watch it.
I watched it all in, like, an evening. No, but it's really funny. And she does not break even once. Not a hint of a smile. It's so impressive.
No, she is so deadpan and committed to this bit.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's so, so definitely recommend. And would not recommend The Mandalorian.
If you're going to become extremely emotionally attached to our wee little alien buddy, it might put you in some distress. We just want him to be okay.
I know! This is what I mean. I can't...
So...
Baby Yoda's the only thing that's ever activated my maternal instincts. Nothing else.
I think it activated Pedro Pascal's daddy instincts.
Yeah. He turned into daddy. He became daddy. Now he's daddy. Thanks, like, Baby Yoda.
I'll be your daddy. That's like the best clip of him, just him like sitting up, big smirk on his face, and you're like, I know what I'm about to say. It's going to be great. I'll be your daddy.
The internet is so horny for him, and like I like him. Like, I have no issue with him, but
God, please do not. Please, something bad do not come out about that man.
Oh my God, no.
I don't think the internet would be able to handle it.
I can't.
Jonathan Majors, and now
oh my God.
I think the only thing worse would be if something bad about Keanu Reeves came out, and then the whole internet would implode.
Enough. Or what about Brendan Fraser? What did Brendan know?
We're bringing bad juju here. I'm stopping right now.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. I'm getting distressed.
I started the bad juju. I'm going to stop it. My recommendations, got a couple. One from new releases. So if you are a big baseball fan and enjoy a good baseball documentary, there's a new documentary about Reggie Jackson called Reggie on Amazon. And it's him interviewing other players and really talking about his experience as a player and also dealing with racism in the sport, which it's a pretty impactful documentary, and obviously Reggie Jackson's a big personality, so he's pretty interesting to listen to. One of my rewatches of my own movies, which I will be talking about on a podcast coming up with Wasteland Collides with Tyler, as we talk about D&D and Thor Ragnarok. And I could throw in Thor Ragnarok whenever and just get a lot of laughs out of it.
Is that the one where he, like, it's like a slot, he gets, like, fat, and it's, like, kind of insulting?
So that's Avengers Endgame.
Oh, okay.
That's where he depression eats and drinks himself to obesity.
I feel like the vibes are off about that, but that's a whole different discussion. I don't know.
I think the message behind it's very debatable, but I have to say, the vibe that he brings to that movie is very Lebowski, and it's hilarious, but it's questionable, like, did they, because here's the thing, speaking for myself, when I get stressed and upset and stuff like that, I eat, and it happens, and it's a real thing.
Yeah, people stress eat all the time. You're not special. No, I'm just kidding. You are special.
Did they need to laugh about it the whole entire movie most of the time? Probably not.
It's a bit much. Fat people.
That's probably the one thing from Endgame that I would probably argue is like, that's not the best thing that they did in that movie. Like, if they dealt with it more, that's one thing. But they did make a bunch of jokes about him. Like, at one point he, like, passes out with his hand, like, on his belly. And they're like, is he alive? And he's just sitting there with sunglasses on. I don't
know. Also, thick Thor could still get it, I think.
Of course, it's still Chris Hemsworth.
I'm just gonna put that out
Thor
there.
Ragnarok's when he got a haircut, and then it's just like
I've never seen any of these.
And it's a hilarious, crazy, over the top romp where Jeff Goldblum plays a dictator alien of this planet Sakaar, and he's really just Jeff Goldblum. Because,
speaking of daddy.
Yeah, speaking of Zaddy. Jeff Goldblum. And Thor and Hulk's dynamic is hilarious because, like, who could be more of the overly masculine and, like, I'm the strongest Avenger dynamic. And, of course, Taika Waititi playing a giant rock man named Korg, who has a nice little soft voice that he based off of a bouncer in New Zealand.
I've never seen any of these.
So, It's a really funny movie. It's a bunch of fun, and it's probably one of the most purely fun adventures that Marvel has, and that's why I love it so much.
Oh, nice.
And then, one movie I got to watch off my watch list was Stranger Than Fiction, which...
With the Will Ferrell one?
Yeah, I had never watched it before. And I really dug it. I thought he was great in it. He still has some of his goofier moments. Like, I love when he starts yelling at the sky. But, like, honestly, it was a much more, like, subdued Will Ferrell performance. I thought Emma Thompson was great. Seeing Dustin Hoffman in things in, like, the 2000s, always a nice thing.
Is he still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
He's still kicking. I don't know how often he acts anymore.
Who am I thinking of that just died?
James Caan?
Yeah, I'm thinking of James Caan, actually, yeah.
James Caan, also in a Will Ferrell movie.
He was a hottie back in the day. Yeah.
You didn't want to mess with James Caan.
I did. I would have messed with James Caan, just not in the way you're talking about.
Exactly. But if you haven't seen Stranger Than Fiction, I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's such an interesting concept. And I guess also as somebody who's an avid reader, it's such an interesting idea of like, what if you realize that you're living the life of a character in somebody's book? And what do you do when you find out you're supposed to die? And like,
well, we're all supposed to die.
But like imminently.
I don't get really intoxicated. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in a while.
So it's an interesting concept. Did I 100% buy like how much of it turned into a romance with Maggie Gyllenhaal and Will Ferrell?
What? Oh, I forgot about that. There's no way Maggie Gyllenhaal will go for Will Ferrell. Come on.
Especially because he's an IRS agent auditing her.
Yeah,
like that 100% makes sense.
Nothing sexier than an IRS agent.
But a lot of the other elements of the movie I really liked. But those are my recommendations. And that's another wrap on Welcome to the Wasteland, where I feel like we have probably about 8 more weeks of John Carpenter.
Woo!
And then soon I'll be telling everybody on here who's coming next. But for now...
Oh, I can't say.
Putting things together.
I know, but I can't say.
Paige is already lined up.
Yay!
But, Paige, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. And I had fun. I don't feel like we talked about John Carpenter as much as I thought. I feel like we just kind of... This is just what we talk about when the cameras are off and you guys got a taste.
And thank all of you for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.